What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Splatocalypse video. This week we are celebrating the final Splatfest, even though I'm at church camp. I won't be able to stream the final Splatfest until Saturday, which kind of works because I stream on Saturdays, but it would have been nice to play Splatfest, the final Splatfest a little more. But you know what? Things happen for a reason, and it's all right. I'm gonna be all right with that. Um, so all this week, as you know, or maybe you don't, we're celebrating the final Splatfest with different types of videos, and today we're going to be ranking all of the Shifty stations, like, ever, all of them, in Splatoon 2. And we're going to be ranking them from my personal preference, least innovative to just like you could have done better, to this was the best Shifty station ever. I miss it, pretty much. And I'm not gonna rank Princess McDiaries or whatever they're calling it, or I don't know. It's something like that. I think it's McPrincess Diaries. Doesn't matter. I will mention it and tell you what it's about, but I won't rank it because it's not fair. Because I haven't played it. No one has played it. It'll be available to play tomorrow, but again, I won't play it till Saturday. And yeah, may the best team win. Let's get right into the video. I've already wasted too much time. Ranking Shifty stations. Now, this first one, I honestly forgot about. I forgot that it existed, and then when I was reviewing the Splatfest stages, I was like, wow, this one sucked. It was the Bouncy Twins. This Shifty station was during the Retro versus Modern Splatfest, and its gimmick was that it had bounce pads that allowed you to reach higher places, which was really, really cool, but the bouncy pads were placed over just abysses, multiple just gaps in the stage. And while that's cool because it allows precision, that's the only gimmick it had. It was only bounce pads, and you could die super easy, and in a 3-minute super competitive state, that I was not vibing with that. I'm gonna be honest. So bouncy stage is probably my least favorite Splatfest stage. I honestly forgot about it until I had to research the Splatfest stages again. But I mean, like, it was alright. It was like cool, but like probably the least innovative and least cool Shifty stations in the game. The next one is The Secret of Splat. This one actually appeared multiple times in multiple Splatfests. So it debuted during Flight versus Invisibility and came back during Ralph versus Leo, or Raph versus Leo, not Ralph. And this one really wasn't that much better. I only played it during Raph versus Leo because I didn't have the game when Flight versus Invisibility was going on. But the only thing that this stage had, it was a regular stage, except the middle had a platform, like a few platforms that moved up and down. That was it. I mean, like, the stage itself was very cool, but like its gimmicks were lame. Like, as you can see in the picture right here, the platforms are raised, and it makes for a more competitive, like, it's more of a tower control, turf war-esque mode, but it just wasn't that cool. Also, it was kind of easy to camp people. So like, if you controlled the middle and you were just like, I want to camp, you could. It was super easy. I mean, it was better than Bouncy Twins, but that's all it has. The next one is Wayslide Cool. This is the first ever Shifty station in the game, with Mayo versus Ketchup, and its only gimmick was that, like, the middle of the stage, or like kind of close to the middle of the stage, it had platforms on each side that would just move side to side, and then would sometimes merge in the center so that you could like go past like midway into enemy territory. While this is cool, if that's the only gimmick, I would have gotten bored with it. Like, it's the first Shifty station, so I understand if people are like, "Whoa, that was really cool," but when you compare it to other ones, you really got to look at it and be like, "Was it really that good?" My personal opinion, I think it was better than Secret of Splat, only because it had like multiple platforms, and then the convergence in the middle is just cooler than a platform in the middle that rises and lowers. That's just my personal opinion. You can obviously disagree with me if you want, but um, yeah, those are the three worst Splatfest, I think. We still have a few more that I will bash pretty hard, but then after that I get a little softer. The next one is Goose Bunch. This was I think it's the third ever Splatfest, or it's one of the earlier ones. It debuted versus sci-fi and fantasy and returned during Mikey versus Donnie. Now this one got ranked above all the other ones because it had a few variations. It had more than one gimmick. It had sponges, which I like only because it can be used as offensive, whether you want to use it to get into enemy territory, or it can be used as defensive if you just ink it up and then hide behind it. It has multiple uses. Also, as you see in the picture, there were ink rails that you could use, which made this stage even cooler, because if you inked up a sponge and then used the rail, you could get to even higher places, or you could use the sponge's defense, swoop around it, kill an enemy, and then use their ink rail to get into other territory. It was pretty darn cool. And I'm praising this one. It sounds like I'm praising this one a lot. But when you take away, you can only have so much fun with it for so long, It was pretty much, if you got to the middle, it was pretty much, how can you use the stage to kill other people? And while that's the name of the game, I think eventually, again, I didn't have the game, I think eventually it would have gotten boring, but it was a good stage. I really do think this stage was a good step. Each stage seemed like they got better, except for Bouncy Twins, that just sucked. But so far, the Splatfest stages have been progressing, which is good. I like how how it turned out. The next one is Zone of Glass. This was my first ever Splatfest. It was debuted during Action versus Comedy, and its primary features were invisible platforms. And that was it. I ranked it higher than Sponge versus, or the Sponge, what was it called? I literally just got Goose Bunch. Yeah, I rated it higher than Goose Bunch because, one, it was my first Splatfest, so I feel a little more connected to it. Also, I just think the layout of the stage, I think, was better, because Goose Bunch, it was pretty much just almost like an average stage that I could use with Goose Bunch. It was kind of like darn, I don't know what I could use. It's just like a regular, just picture a regular stage with walls, sponges, and ink rails. One or two ink rails on each side, a few sponges. I mean, that's all it was. The layout of the Zone of Glass was better, and the transparency of it was really cool, because you could see the enemy team, but you couldn't hit them at certain points, so you needed to know where you were going, and there were invisible platforms on both sides, and you just needed to know the layout, which made it even cooler on a competitive level. And again, I'm super competitive about everything, so of course I'm gonna like that. Not not super cool, but I mean, I think it was for like Splatfest. I think it was the fifth Splatfest. That was a that was a cool innovation that they like. It was like half the stage is invisible. Have fun. So I think it was pretty darn cool just to have that. But besides that, again, nothing more. It was just invisible platforms, which just added a new layer of, oh boy, like, I need to be super aware of everything. Okay, this is another Splatfest that I just didn't participate in because, again, I didn't have the game. I only have, after this stage, I think there's only one more stage I didn't participate in. This is Windmill House on the Pearly. This debuted during Vampire vs. Werewolf, and it featured large rotating platforms. There were two, like, side by side that acted as revolving doors, which was really cool because if you played that correctly, you could sneak up on your opponent, or you could like just survey your surroundings. Like you could play it on the defense and wait for them to come to you, or you could play on the offense and go in due to the revolving doors. And I think there were a few others. Like there was two that acted as revolving doors, and I think there was one on each side that was like a defensive, like a mini spinning platform. I don't know. I didn't play it, and I did my research, but this one didn't have much information. It was just like, hey, spinning platforms. There's two that act like revolving doors. I was like, oh, that's cool. So as you can see on the picture, on the left side, the roller is trying to sneak in, but you can play it on the defensive, like the splatter shot. Or if you look on the right, I don't know what weapon that is. They're throwing a burst bomb, and obviously they're on the offensive. So you can see both the defensive and the offensive playing a role in this one stage, which I think is really cool. I like stages that you can use that one feature for multiple purposes, both attack and defense. That's probably why it's ranked this high. Next one, Fancy Spew. This is the final Splatfest that I did not participate in. Maybe if I played them, I would have ranked them higher. Maybe not. I don't know. This one I thought was one of the coolest ones that I did not play in. It was debuted during Sweater versus Socks, the Christmas Splatfest, and it featured spreaders all throughout the stage, but there was one, as you see in the picture, that is just smack dab in the middle of the stage, and one half it inks your team's color, and then the other half, like one side, and then the other side, it inks the other team's color. I think this is really cool because, one, you don't even have to work to get points pretty much. Like, the stage on your half is working with you, and then, like, you can stay on your side of the stage and play super defense and, like, keep everything in check, or you can get super aggressive, and as soon as you break that middle point, it's super against you because you're in your opponent's team base and their spreaders are inking their color, and they're trying to get back to the middle. Everything revolves around the middle and whoever can push past it, because once you push past it, if you get team wiped or everyone on your side is on their side, like if the other team can make a significant push, they can get back to the middle and it can easily flip around. The middle is where it all happened, and I think that's really cool because it's I see this stage as a very back and forth stage, and I would have loved to play on this stage. Probably the best stage, like the stage I wish I could have played on the most that I just missed out on. Anyway, Fancy Spew, pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, again, I like stages that can use both aspects of offense and defense. Okay, Grappling Girl. This one was debuted during Baseball versus Soccer, and its element was the grapplings, and you just pretty much teleport to that side of the stage if you can hit the grappling. There were so many plays throughout the stage. It was kind of ridiculous. You never knew where your enemies were because if you saw them like 5 seconds ago, they could be on a total different part of the stage if they reached a grappling. The only disappointing thing with this is if people with short range weapons had a awful time with this stage because this was just a regular stage because they couldn't reach the grapplings, whether it be splooshes, rollers, what's another close range weapon? Splashes are pretty close. I mean, like anything super duper close range, you had a tough time. Long range, jet squelchers, splattershot pros, snipers, gatlings. This was literally heaven for them. They could be anywhere on this, especially freaking E-leaders. Oh my gosh, I cannot express how many snipers were on this stage because of the grapplings. They would sit through like 10 matches of regular maps just to get onto this stage and just like pick people apart. I would have loved to use a sniper on the stage, but I can't use a sniper. So obviously I wasn't going to do that. This stage was pretty fun. I think I had more fun on this stage because I used a Splattershot Pro. If I mained a short range weapon, I probably would have put this lower in the list, and I can understand if you would rank this lower because of that. But besides that, this stage was actually pretty fun. Even if you like hit a grappling and then someone threw a splat bomb at your feet, you couldn't do anything. You died. But it was still really fun and very innovative. I liked what they did with this stage. Pretty good one. Next one, Zabi Long Shocking. This is one stage that I never got to participate in because I was at church camp. Shocker. So this one was debuted during Pulp versus No Pulp when I was gone. So Andrew got to play during this stage, and it was very, very odd. The teams were spawned side by side, and they were separated by a glass wall, so you could see each other. And it was pretty much a mad dash to the edge of the stage, and whoever could get there first and hold it. So, like, there were these two long streaks that was pretty much your base, and then it dropped, like, your pillars just dropped off, and then the middle of the stage was pretty much 10 seconds from your base. And y'all were side by side, so it got freaking hectic. Once you got past that middle, that's where the stage came into play. As you can see, there are little targets, and if you use the picture, the farthest one from the closest on the screen, the farthest one in the background pretty much is, it affects that wall, the wall that it's closest to. And what it would do is it would raise it and pretty much block off a section of the stage so that the enemy team couldn't get to that portion of the stage via that way. So they could only get to the stage two more ways, so you could just pretty much position yourself to zone those two areas and kill them. The other two targets lift the walls correlating to them. The right target lifts the wall on the right that gets cut off by the screen, and the left target raises the target on the left, and it pretty much just gives whoever inks up that wall another vantage point to pick off the people on the lower section of this area. It was actually kind of cool. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I would want to play that just because it was so hectic, but I think it was a cool idea, and Andrew did really good on that stage, actually. He won a few of them, so I'm not sure if he used the stage at all or if Frank carried him, probably a little bit of both, but Andrew did really good, and this stage was pretty cool. I mean, it didn't have many features, but I kind of like where you spawned. I think that was really cool, spawning side by side, literally separated just by a glass wall, and then all heck broke loose as soon as you dropped in the middle. I found that very, very fun, and that's probably what pushed it over the edge to get this spot. The next one, a swiftly tilting balance. It was the next stage, and it was debuted during Raph versus Donnie, the final Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splatfest. The stage, it was like a bean balance thing, and it tilted due to the weight of the players. So say there was 2 squids on your team and 1 squid on the enemy team, the stage would tilt down on your side and up on the enemy side because there were 2 of your teammates on that side. I thought that was pretty cool because even sub-weapons affected how it tilted. And while I think the other stage, the Zabi long shocking, was cooler, and I probably would have ranked it higher if I played it, I had a lot of fun matches on this stage. Again, I used the Splattershot Pro, so pretty much anyone would just get on a stage and they would try and get the vantage point on me, but since I had such a long weapon, I could just look at them, shoot them, and then run into their base and just wreak havoc. I thought that was really cool. But I like the idea of the weight affecting vantage point, because everything was constantly changing. Because you can't be like, oh, I'll go up on that tower and just pick people apart. Because if no one's on the other half of the tower, then your vantage point is instantly gone and you're lowering your vantage point and there's nothing there. I thought the idea of it was so cool. Again, other stages are about to just obliterate this. This is probably about the midway mark. I'd say a swiftly tilting balance is midway. The Shifty stations, that was like, I wouldn't hate having these stages back. Like Grappling Girl, Zabi long shocking, swiftly tilting balance. I wouldn't hate having these as actual stages. I think they would be a blast. The earlier stages, not so much. Okay, the Maze Dasher. This stage was, I'm pretty sure, it was, Hero versus Villain. It was debuted during Hero versus Villain, the Super Smash Bros. Splatfest. Its primary feature was just dash tracks, which just made you could quickly hop from one side of the stage to the other, or you just jump forward into the middle. I like jump pads or dash tracks. Sorry, I like dash tracks a lot in this game, and the fact that they made a whole Splatfest stage dedicated to it, I thought it was really cool. And the way they used them, there weren't just offensive dash tracks, there were defensive dash tracks, and there were positioning dash tracks. Sorry. So the first one that you ran across, it was an offensive dash track. It put you from your base pretty much in the middle. Then right beside that, there were 2 dash tracks, pretty much side by side. One jumped to the right and one jumped to the left, and those were positioning dash tracks that you could, just if you didn't like where you were, or you saw an opportunity to kill the enemy, but you needed to be on the other half of the stage, you could be there in seconds. And then the other one, it was pretty much in mid, and if I remember correctly, it was just a defensive dash track that you could use to back away, or the enemy could use as an even more offensive push, which made the stage even cooler, that you could use the dash track so many different ways. You could use the positioning dash tracks of the enemy side just to run away or position for yourself. I thought dash tracks was really, really cool, and Maze Dasher is pretty high up there just for my like of dash tracks and the way that the developers used them in this level. That was really cool. Gusher Towns. This one was a little weird. I forgot this stage existed. And it was with one of the weirdest Splatfests, Salsa versus Guac. That's when it debuted. It was only used once. They didn't rehash this idea. It featured gushers, and it allowed players to reach high points or block off routes for the opponents. I thought that was pretty cool. So you each had a little runway to work with. That was your base. As soon as you reach the middle, if you look on the screen, the 2 gushers side by side in the background, that was where your base was. The one farthest to the left, that you exited your base, and that was pretty much, you need a vantage point and the opponents are rushing in, that's where you go. The one closest to the foreground, that was where mid was. There was a gusher right there, and then farther on the right, which you can't see, it was pretty much a square block that had 2 gushers built into it. And if you hit it with your ink color, the opponent could not go through it and the only way that they could attack you is from above. And if you had your gusher active, your above gusher active, and you blocked off the route, you could either push in or just wait for the opponent to like walk in and die pretty much. This was really innovative. Again, snipers and splatlings, they had a field day on this stage. And you could wreak havoc with like a sploosh or a splash. You just had to be really sneaky. This stage I think was pretty fun, even though I forgot about it. It definitely is ranked up there just for the innovation and the way that the community used this stage. It was kind of crazy. I liked it. The Splat in our zones. Oh boy, this one was debuted during Pancake versus Waffled. It featured 6 Splat Zones pretty much, and like if you inked it up enough, then the zone would ink up the rest of it. It was pretty darn cool. It was Splat Zones meets Turf Wars, and it was intense. I ranked it this high just because it was really, really cool to see 2 ranked modes like mushed together. It was really, really cool. I said the secret of Splat was pretty much like tower control, except the tower never moves. But this was pure ranked Splat Zones meets Turf Wars. It was amazing. If you held all of the Splat Zones and your base, you won. If you held... There was like 3 on your side, 3 on the opponent's side. If it was equal, it all came down to who could make the final push. It was ridiculous. I lost so many games on this stage, but I've also obliterated teams on this stage. It was so much fun. Very, very back and forth stage. And it really just came down to who could kill the other team the most. And because if you could ink, but you couldn't kill, it didn't matter. This was the stage like, hey, competitive ranked, here's a Splatfest for you. And I really liked that just because it was so innovative and just, again, Splat Zones meets Turf Wars. It was done right. Like, that is a good job. Kudos to you, Splatoon 2. Flutters in the Attic. Okay. I don't know how I feel about this stage. It was featured during the second Christmas Splatfest, Fan vs. Friend, so I participated in it. It featured, I think it was 2 Flutters on each side, so 4 Flutters in total. They surveyed a small area, and there were bounce pads around them. So if you were on the enemy side, you could, work around it. If you were on your side, you could position yourself for an attack. You really couldn't push super far because the Flutters would literally track you down, and then the enemy team, you had 2 Flutters on you plus 4 enemy squids or like octopi, whatever you want to say. Like, the enemy team was on you plus the Flutters, which made it even harder to base invade. And there were so many matches that I was so done with the stage because if I would try and push, I would instantly be spotted and killed. The Flutters weren't that much of a problem. It was that the Flutters saw me, and then the opponent team came in and wrecked. The stage, I put it up here because, again, it was done right. It was super innovative, and the only other time you see this, like this kind of thing, is in the story mode, and the fact that they put that in a multiplayer map to bring it back is pretty darn cool. I like Flutters. They're annoying, but they get the job done, and it was very, very cool just to have them in a multiplayer map. And even though I like base invading, I hate it when other people base invade, so it made it more equal, even though tons of teams worked around the Flutters and crushed it. They had 70% of the map. It was ridiculous. But it was a good map. It was done right. So another high praising map. Cannon Fire Pearl. This was really, really early. It was featured in Money vs. Love. It was the second Splatfest I was a part of. And it featured... How many cannons? I think there was 3 total. 1 on each side. And then 1 in the middle. I thought this was really cool because cannons are freaking awesome. And the only other place cannons are featured besides the story mode is Salmon Run. So the fact that you got to use cannons again was pretty darn cool. The only super annoying part was the middle cannon was pretty much useless. Because if a sploosh snuck up on you, you were dead. If a sniper saw you, you were dead. If you got hit with 10 missiles and didn't notice, you were super dead. Like, the only safe cannons were your base, and that was it. Because if you snuck into your opponent's base, you don't need to use the cannon. So pretty much, I like this stage only because of the hecticness. I never got in a cannon, and if I did, it was for a short amount of time. I just like the hecticness, and they have conveniently placed walls, and just the layout of the stage is really darn cool. So it's like, you have your 4 squids, the enemy has their 4 squids, and cannons are also going at it. It is awesome. I really like this stage. It was a great Splatfest stage, a step up from the Invisible stage, and even better than some of the later stages. I really liked Cannon Fire Pearl. The switches. This one was pretty much... This was like Splat Zones. No, it wasn't Splat Zones. This was pretty much, hey, we like this story level, like this story mode level, throwing it into multiplayer. So what it was, there were 3 different switches, I think. There was one in the middle, one on your base, one on the enemy base. And what it did was, there were switches all throughout the level. If you inked it in your color, it would either give you an advantage to a place you couldn't reach before, or block off your enemy's route, and vice versa. So as you see in this one, this was the switch closest to your base. If it was not inked, it was just, the door was not active. If it was inked in your base's color, it closed off, so the enemy team couldn't reach your base, unless they inked it in their color, in which case the door would open again and they had free reign into your base. And in the middle, there was a switch that just, I forgot what the middle had. I think it raised and lowered platforms. It was really, really cool. This debuted during Fork vs. Spoon. While this was one of the weirdest Splatfest, it was one of the coolest stages in my opinion, only because I'm very... Again, I said I like stages that can be used for multiple uses, and this is the definition of defense and offense. Switches, like that door right there that you see, that is pure defense, and then if you did it and if you inked it in enemy color, that was pure offense. And I just love it. If you inked it in your color and snuck in before the door closed, you had to face the entire enemy team pretty much that was in their base, and the door was closed. Your escape route was locked. So that was really darn cool. It was just super duper fun to be on that stage. The ink is spreading. This is another switch-based stage, except switches really isn't the right word. They're called splat switches, I guess, which is the exact same thing. Never mind. Switches is the right word. It was debuted during Knight versus Wizard, and when you inked it, the switches in your color, spreaders, they're back, would start inking that area in your color. I think there were 3 or 5, 1 to 2 in your base on each side, and then 1 in the middle. That one in the middle was super duper crucial. The one in the middle, as you can see on the picture, that splat switch was huge. It was ridiculously big. And you had to ink it a lot in order to... And it inked up a huge portion of the stage. That entire middle was yours if you inked it up. Again, it was always being contested, though, so you had to kill people. And I thought it was super duper cool that if someone just inked up a switch, they could be in your base. Even though it was super, super annoying, it was really, really cool that 1 second they could be in the middle, and then if they just played their cards right, they could be in your base and have all of the map covered. I don't think there was one time on this stage. No, there was a couple of times. This reminds me of one of the older stages, except it had no splat switches, where you can go from your side of the stage to the enemy side of the stage. It's I can't remember the stage name right now, but the ink is spreading. That was a good stage. Very annoying, always contesting, but that's what makes a good stage. That it's not always one-sided. It's very back and forth, and I liked it. It was a really good stage and a good Splatfest. The Chronicles of Rollium. This one was the Splatfest before the last Splatfest, before Narwhals. This one was time travel versus teleportation, and it featured, I think there was three sets of Rollium on each side, which made 6 things of Rollium. And once you hit it enough times, if you hit it at the right angle, it would just go into the enemy base. And what was really cool is you see the top of the stage, but it was what was below the stage that was really cool. If you took a left, then there would just be this long, pretty much just valley of nothingness. And what was cool about it was there was Rollium on each side. So you could like launch the Rollium to start your attack, or if people just wanted to be sneaky, they could go under the valley. What was cool about it is that if you were on the top, where you can see the picture right now, if you were there just waiting, you could easily get the drop on them and kill their entire team. That happened to me too many times, and it was so bad. It was really bad. But it was fun. That was a good Splatfest stage. I would not mind having that stage back as a Splatfest stage, as a regular stage. I really hope they bring some of these stages back as like just full-on stages, because that stage was fun. Fuller in the Ashes. This was the previous Splatfest stage that debuted during Unicorn versus Narwhal. So what it had the ink furlers, or I like to call the fruit roll-ups, and when you just hit them, they unravel. And it allowed players to move all throughout the Splatfest stage. What was cool about it was that they had a Mahi Mahi resort aspect, and that at around a minute and a half or a minute, the water level dropped. And you didn't need the fullers anymore. They gave you more, it was more of a vantage point instead of necessary to go into the base of the enemy. And I love Mahi Mahi Resort so much. It was probably one of my favorite stages, if not my favorite stage in Splatoon 1. So the fact that they brought that aspect back brought back a lot of memories and put this high in the Splatfest stages list. It was so much fun. I love this stage. That was a perfect stage for the penultimate Splatfest, and I hope that the final stage is anywhere close as cool to that, because that was fun. It's going to be hard to top that. So, we are on to... That was my third favorite Splatfest stage. This is my second favorite one, Sweet Valley Tentacles. This stage was debuted during the 1-year anniversary of Splatoon, which was... Oh, wait, no, that was like... Oh, dang. That was up there. I don't think that was my third one, because there's a few... Sorry, I forgot about a few of them. My bad. I just need to stop talking. This one debuted during Squid vs. Octopus, the 1-year anniversary for Splatoon. Or the... Wait, was it the 1 year? Might have been the 2 year. Oh, crap. Doesn't matter. It was an anniversary, and it's really cool. So, it featured 3 large tentacles on each enemy team, and each tentacle represented a door, pretty much. So, that tentacle on screen, once you destroy that tentacle, Gate 1 would open, and you could go further into the stage. What was cool about it, it was pretty much you got to ink up turf and play defense at the same time. You have to consistently keep moving forward but play defense. Because you wanted to destroy the enemy's tentacles, but you didn't want the enemy to destroy your tentacles. Because if they destroyed all 3 tentacles, they had free range in your base. I remember there was one. It was the Splatfest, like that stage. There was one team, we got the first gate down, and they had all of our gates down. Like, by the time we got gate 1 down, they had our gate 3 down. It was ridiculous. And they just crushed us. And we couldn't even get to the middle because we didn't have gate 2 or 3 down. This was a really, really cool Splatfest. I liked that stage so much just because of, like, there was an objective. I felt like every time I went on the stage, I had a role to not just win the match, but like to help out the team the best way I could. And it wasn't like you had to do the same thing every time. Your role could be different every single time. If you had a person who just rushed in, you would play more defense. If you had a team who just loved to ink turf, you would go on the offense. It was really, really cool, just the different ways you could play this stage. Super duper fun. A great stage for the anniversary of Splatoon. There we go. I forgot about this stage. I don't know how. It's like ranked in the top 5. Railway Chillin. This was the Trick or Treat Splatfest. I really liked it. Let's see. It featured, obviously, rails. That was the big thing. And, oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm, like, reading up on it right now. There were multiple rails. I think there was, like, 3, and they all eventually led to the middle. It was a pretty small stage, so like everyone was dying, and I didn't like this stage when it first came out because if you had a Bablobber, you won. This was when the Bablobber like first came out. It was super overpowered, and if you got to the middle, had your Bablobber, you won. That was it. But now looking back on it, that was a really fun stage. I know a lot of people like that stage. It's in their top 3, and I think it's in my top 3 as well. Splatfest stages. Like, Shifty Station Splatfest stages, because it was so... While it was a small, tight squeeze, it was so fun. People were dying all the time. And you could play defense, but it was very offensive motivated. Like, you have to go. This really pushed the limits of how offensive can you be. And, like, team coordination was pretty key. I had Frank and Alexis with me on the Splatfest. Even though we got obliterated, being on the call and just, like, having their synergy really, really helped. I mean, that's simple for any stage, but this stage especially, since it was so small. Small stages, usually not my favorite, but this one was up there. This right here. This stage. So good. It was so good. I freaking love this stage so much. This is my second favorite stage, and I love this stage to death. This is the bridge to Tentacle. This was featured during the Hare vs. Tortoise Splatfest. It was a 48-hour Splatfest. I got to stream 2 days in a row, which is already freaking awesome. But I got to play on this stage so much. I loved it. At first, I despised this stage. I'm like, I hate this stage. This is the worst stage. But then I figured something out. If you got the middle, like, I was like, okay, the middle, like, it's fine. And then I figured out, I was like, hey, there's a switch here. Once I figured out how to use the stage, I loved it so much. It was so good. If you got the middle, the other team couldn't make a comeback. It was pretty much impossible to make a comeback. It happened a few times, by the way. So like if you really put your test to the limit, like you could, if you really put your that's not even English. I'm not even speaking correctly. If you really put your team to the test, and like y'all just wrecked havoc, you got all of your base, the rest of the middle that was inkable, and then the enemy base, you could win. But what was really cool is like this section of the stage, the middle, just you couldn't ink it. Whoever got there first and hit the switch, you got that section of the stage. It was really darn awesome. It was kind of annoying sometimes, but it was really, really cool. Once you got done with the middle of the stage, it was pretty much just a normal stage, and you could pretty much pick the enemy team apart. That's what Frank and I did all the time. We got on a call. We would get the middle. I would watch his back while he flipped the switch. He'd refresh on ink. I'd kill people. He'd kill people. He would also kill people. And then we go back to the switch. Once the switch was over, we just rush into the base and start killing them again. It was so fun. And then after a while, obviously the switch is guarded by glass, which pretty much means, hey, the middle's over. Focus your attention on the enemies and get the rest of the ink that you can. Super duper fun. Now, that is my second favorite stage. And that stage and my favorite stage have one thing in common. It's you ink something, and then after a while, you can't ink it anymore. I don't know why, because that leaves less room for comebacks. Maybe that's why, because I always choke games in a comeback. So, my favorite Splatfest stage, and it's going to be really hard to beat, but I'm not sure if the Princess Diaries can do it or not. My favorite Splatfest Shifty Station stage is the Bunker Games. This one was weird. Again, at first, I hated it. I despised this stage. But after, knowing what to do and understanding the stage, I adored it. This debuted during Chicken versus the Egg. That was the Splatfest. It features 3 containment chambers, which close off parts of the stage over a certain amount of time. Once the area is closed, a launch pad appears within it, and the players inside can escape the dome. What the cool thing is that what I would usually do is I would ink, so on the right side, that would be your bunker. That would be your containment chamber on your half of the stage. I would ink that up and then instantly go to the enemy side and start killing them. Once, I think it was a minute 45, a minute 30, once that time hit, the chambers would start closing, and within 15 seconds, the chamber was off limits. Whoever was left in the chamber had free range and free turf. It was yours. Sometimes, the chambers would close off, and it would be 2v1 or 1v1. One person on the enemy team, one person of your team. It was ridiculous. And then whoever won got that turf. It was really, really cool. The middle chamber, however, I don't like to this day because there's walls in there, and it's that gives you more coverage. But again, I use the Splattershot Pro. I'm more range. So dualies, splooshes, splashes, anything with fast range. I think even arrow sprays could probably kill me if they really put it to the test. That stay, I don't like the middle bunker, but the aspect and the innovation and just the way the stage was laid out, very similar to the Bridge of Tintaswiscia. The Bunker Games was super duper fun and my favorite Splatfest stage. Now I'm going to talk about the McPrincess Diaries. I have it right here. I really want this to be the best Splatfest stage because it's the final Splatfest. And they've already announced what it's going to be. So it's obviously going to debut during Chaos vs. Order. And it says right here, it will feature the Princess Cannon, which is pretty much Killer Whale by, what's her name? Pearl. Pearl will have Princess Cannon, which is pretty much Killer Whale, and Hyper Bombs, that Marina has from the from the Octo expansion. Both the Princess Cannon and the Hyper Bombs, they're both featured in the Octo expansion when you're beating the final boss. And Off the Hook will be seen performing live. They will be on that little hovercraft cart thingy mabobber, and they'll be performing live in the stage. I think this will be super duper epic. I heard that Hyper Bombs are going to show up at about the 2 minute and 1 minute mark, and then the Princess Cannon will show up at about the 1:30 mark. It's really, really cool. Some of this is speculation, some of this is released. I could be wrong. I could just be giving y'all false information. And also, there is speculation, and I think it's basically confirmed, they're going to have new music for the Splatfest stage, and they're going to bring back old music from Splatoon 1 with Callie and Marie, and then they're going to have new music from Off the Hook, and they're going to have a new remix. It's going to be super duper epic. I am pumped for this Splatfest stage. I really, really hope it can somehow beat these three mainly these two, but I hope that stage, McPrincess Diaries, can be the best Splatfest stage. And it's 72 hours long. I'm only going to get to play less than 24 hours of it, but I'm going to have as much fun as I can. There you guys have it. That was the Shifty Stations ranked. Sorry that I ramble. That's kind of what I do when I don't have a game in front of me. Even when I do, I ramble. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave down in the comments what your favorite Splatfest stage was. Shifty Station stage. I can't speak. Ugh. And if you want to rank them like I did, leave it down in the comments. I would love to read how you rank them and anything you disagree with. Like, I want to see how close our stages line up, and like what your favorite was, and like where you rank them. I want to see your least favorite and your favorite. I want to see all the stages. Just rank them. Just make a video. Just send it to me, or put it down in the comments. That's fine too. I don't care. I just want to see what you guys think about the Shifty Station stages. I'm probably weird ranking the Bunker games and like the Tinta Switchia stage as the top two, because there's no possibility for a comeback. But that's what I like. That's all me. And then the McPrincess Diaries. Please leave down in the comments how awesome you think it's going to be, like on a scale of 1 to 10. I really hope it's at least a 8.5, if not a 9, because, like, you know, I feel like that stage is going to be awesome. I'm going to adore that stage, hopefully. Or maybe I'll hate it, and then when I think about it, I'll love it again, you know? That's what happened with my two favorite stages. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next episode as we continue to celebrate the Splatocalypse. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope y'all have fun in the Chaos vs. Order Splatfest. Don't forget to leave down a comment of your favorite Splatfest stage. Subscribe, like, share with family and friends so I can see what their favorite Splatfest stage was, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.